Well, and now there's a separate IAEA investigation that's not about the safeguards agreement, but is mandated by the UN Security Council, I guess under bonkers Bolton, that says that they must cease all enrichment, right? Not just to abide by their additional protocol, but they have to basically give up their nuclear program in general, right?
Look, when Iran admitted in 2003, and again, the admission was a compelled admission. Let's not pretend that Iran just woke up one day and went, "Gosh, let's tell the world about Natanz." That they were found out, and so they said, "Yep, we got this facility. It's here. We want you to come in and inspect." But what they told the IAEA is they said, we're going to open ourselves up, and we're going to let you do everything. We didn't let you do it in the past because, we got the United States with its sanctions. We got, Israel opposing us. No one would let us have a nuclear program. So we did it in secret. But now we're coming forward. We're going to tell you what we got. But we insist on retaining our right to enrich uranium. We're not going to give that up. And originally Europe, the United States stepped back and let Europe go in and do the negotiation. The original agreement, the Tehran Agreement, signed by the EU and by Iran, said just that Iran will suspend its enrichment program while the IAEA puts in place its safeguard mechanisms, does a material balance, etc., and then this program will be allowed to be restarted. It was made clear, and this is why Iran agreed to the voluntary accession to the additional protocols in the new code 3.1. But notice what I said, voluntary. What Iran said is we will abide by the additional protocol inspections. We will abide by the new code 3.1 on a voluntary basis, but it's not binding. We're going to do this. Parliament's going to ratify, and then it becomes binding. But Parliament will not ratify until you guys live up to your end of the agreement. So this is sort of like a trial period. In 2005, the EU, under pressure from the United States, withdrew from its commitment under the Tehran Agreement and instead backed the American contention that Iran must permanently suspend, cease and desist all enrichment operations, that Iran will not be allowed to enrich. And that was the unraveling of Iran's voluntary compliance.
Well, and that's completely illegal, and that means the United States of America is in violation of our signature to the Non-Proliferation Treaty, right?
Well, I don't think it means we're in violation of the Non-Proliferation Treaty. I think what it means is the United States basically has no respect for the rule of law. The United States, feels that we can go around and dictate outcomes and mandate solutions that are extra legal. And Iran is absolutely correct in terms of how it's behaving legally. Would I do things differently if I were the Iranian government? Of course, I wouldn't be quite as in your face about it. But that's Iran, and that's the atmosphere they live in. But they're doing nothing wrong. They know what their treaty rights are. They know what their strategic objectives are. Never forget that the strategic objective of nuclear energy is one that has been embraced by an American ally in the region, the United Arab Emirates, who just last year said that we need to develop domestic nuclear energy to cut down on the level of domestic consumption of energy to free up our energy resources for exportation so we can earn money. It's the same argument that Iran's made. They're going to build nuclear reactors just like Iran is building nuclear reactors, and yet no one's sitting there going, well, the United Arab Emirates is awash in a sea of oil, and therefore the only excuse for their nuclear program could be a nuclear weapons program. It's absurd in the extreme.
Well, and of course, the opportunity cost argument made perfect sense when it was the Shah's nuclear program, and he was our puppet dictator. In fact, I saw on a website somewhere where someone had laser scanned advertisement from, I think, U.S. News and World Report from the 1970s from a nuclear company in America that was helping build the Iranian nuclear facilities back then. And it was all above board, no big deal at all.
That's right. And just remember, in the lead up to, back in the Bush administration, the two loudest complainers about Iran were Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld. Dick Cheney was the White House chief of staff under Ford, and Rumsfeld was the Secretary of Defense, and both thought it was a great idea to give nuclear technology to the Iranians under the Shah, inclusive of enrichment capability. So, well, now, how the times have changed.
Yeah, indeed. Well, and Dick Cheney even used to complain about the sanctions against Iran in the 1990s because he wanted, as CEO of Halliburton, to do more business, make more money. That was before he was the vice president and pushed for regime change and war. And speaking of that, you've alluded to this a couple of times, but I want to give you an opportunity to really talk about, what you could foresee. I mean, obviously, no crystal ball, but just your experience off the top of your head. What are the first few worst consequences that you think might flow from an actual American attack on Iran?
Well, I think we already have a template there that demonstrates what will happen. It'll be far worse, but one can just take a look at Israel's incursion into southern Lebanon and what Hezbollah did in response, and to understand that Israel, with its air supremacy and its ground forces and all this, we're never able to defeat Hezbollah on the ground. And Hezbollah was never shut down in terms of its ability to launch rockets against Israel. The Iranian problem set is far greater. It's a huge country. Iran has been developing medium and long-range missiles in significant numbers. And the first thing that will happen if an Iranian facility is struck is that Israel's cities will be immediately attacked by Iranian missiles. And Israel does not have a missile defense shield that will stop these missiles, and there will be significant damage and significant casualties. The other thing that will happen is every American facility in Iraq, and indeed facilities in Kuwait, facilities in Qatar, facilities in Bahrain, will likewise be the recipients of Iranian missiles. These are conventional missiles with conventional warheads, but the Iranians will basically strike, the American military presence in the region and any nation that facilitates the American military presence. And then Iran will shut down the Strait of Hormuz. And while we have NATO naval commanders and American naval commanders saying how that won't be a big deal, we'll be able to, even if Iran does shut it down, we'll be able to reopen it. With what forces? The Iranians aren't stupid. I think that's the other thing we have to realize from the war in Lebanon, because even though it was Hezbollah doing the fighting, it was Hezbollah ably assisted by, Iranian advisors. And Hezbollah had shown that it had studied the Israeli target to an order of magnitude above and beyond that which anybody had anticipated. If you talk to Israeli commandos and read their accounts, they talk about running into their Hezbollah counterparts who were wearing the same equipment with the same technology and the same level of training that they did. Hezbollah, working with Iran, broke into Israeli communications and spoke fluent Hebrew and did diverted Israeli resources. They hit an Israeli naval ship with a missile. I mean, the bottom line is the Iranians aren't just sitting back right now on their thumbs waiting for something to happen. They are studying us. They are looking for our weaknesses. And when the time comes for them to do that which they need to do to defend themselves, they will do so with an efficiency and an effectiveness that will shock us all. Again, they're not going to defeat us, but they are going to hurt us, and we have to ask the question, why? It's one thing if we had Iranian divisions on the border threatening to come across Mexico and hit the United States. That would be one thing altogether. Iran is not threatening us at all. There is no military threat. There is no economic threat. There is no threat whatsoever. And yet, we're speaking about a war that we not only will not win, we cannot win this.
Well, it even seems like the premise is that we'll just bomb them for a week or two until we're done, and then that'll be it, that they won't fight back. I guess with the implied threat there is if you do fight back against our troops in Iraq, against Israel, for example, that we will just carpet bomb your country off the face of the earth, so don't you dare.
With what
is that not a...
It's an absurdity. We haven't demonstrated an ability to carpet bomb anything off the face of the earth. First of all, the mere fact that we're talking about carpet bombing means that, immediately we're going to lose the media war. And believe me, we're dealing with a president who's extremely media conscious here. We start carpet bombing out of the blue. We are the war criminals. Does President Obama really want to go down in history as being one of the ultimate war criminals of all time? Because that's what you become when you start carpet bombing. We're no better than the Russians carpet bombing Grozny. Plus, we don't have the resources. How many times this isn't the Taliban. We have free reign over Afghanistan. This is not Iraq, which had no air force.